Good morning. What a beautiful day this morning. Today I want to talk to you about these Rangefinder medium format film cameras I have. This is a take two because the original video, somehow my wireless transmitter for my mic is off. So I shot some silent film. So whoever wanna do videos, make sure you check your mics and turn that on. Uh, that's the mistake I've learned today. The one over here is a Fujica GW690. This is the first version. There is three versions of this camera, I believe, and also the version I have is Fujica actually makes two of versions of each of these. Well, let's should say um, two a camera with two different lenses. Since the camera doesn't have interchangeable lenses, so you can either buy one with a normal lens, like a 90mm f3.5, or a wider lens, like I think it's a 65mm for this camera. Over here is a Mamiya 7 Mark II. This one currently I have the 80mm f4 lens, and I also have a 65mm f4 right here. So this camera, you can change lenses. Here's the thing. The price difference between these two cameras are quite large, right? This camera is probably, I paid about 10 times as much as the Fujica. I'm kind of a sucker, I think. Definitely have gas. I really like it. The Mamiya 7 Mark II. I've been wanting it since they first came out in the 19, I think, was that mid 90s, right? The Mark One first came out. I think the Mark Two came out in 1999. The difference between the Mark One and Mark Two is marginal. I would say marginal for my purpose. Namely, the Mark Two has three lugs. It has generally they have this. You see this blue yellow looking coating on the frame line illuminator patch. On the Mark One, it doesn't. But I heard you can upgrade some of that stuff too. But now the Mamiya is out of business. Probably can't do that. And also Mark II has this multiple exposure feature, which is I also don't use. Mark II supports a multi-format. Well, actually, I do have that. It's the 35mm film. You go in there, you will turn this camera to a panoramic camera, kind of like the X-Pan. Um, I think it only works best if you use wide angle lenses, particularly. Also, I don't know. I just don't see that's if I wanna, uh, you know, have that look, I can still use 120 film and crop it later. Only for I think it's really only good for people who likes just to shoot 35mm and or don't have a way of processing 120 or something like that to actually turn this camera into a 35mm panorama camera. Both cameras made a kind of the casing is plastic. Can be a good thing and bad thing. Good thing is it's a little bit more lightweight in the wintertime. If you hold on to it without a glove, it's less cold. Bad thing is, it's less solid. For the price, these cameras, I mean, this one's not too bad. I think I paid like $400 for this. And this is like over 4,000, so yeah, more than 10 times. Um, is that, especially on this camera, for 4,000, you know, I wish it's made out of at least metal, like a magnesium or something, lightweight metal. But it's not, it's plastic. It is what it is. The feature wise, I think this camera, the Mamiya 7, is very thought after. One of the thing is both cameras has a leaf shutter, so you can basically sync any speed you like, and it's also very quiet. But the This camera is not a problem because it's fixed to the body. Whereas this guy, you know, as you can see, the engineer has to figure out like how do you change lens in middle of the roll without exposing the film, you know. So for that, Mamiya actually built this cloth shutter for changing lenses. So right now, you know, you can see the lens is exposed, the leaf shutter exposed. See right there. So you're not really exposing the film. This button is a lens release. It's locked. You can't really, you know, take the lens off. So what you have to do is right here on the Mark 1 of this camera, I think it doesn't have this little flip lever. It's a recessed little dial you have to turn. This one, it's a little easier. You turn this, it basically closes a leaf shutter. Now you can press down on the lens release, and let's see. I didn't press down enough. Right here. See, you can take the lens off just normal. Once you're done, there's this little lever here, and you're good to go. Pretty cool, huh? One thing I want to point out, so this camera, the door opens this way, just like any other 35mm camera, whereas this camera, it opens the other way. The release is right there. What's interesting about the Fuji is they all come with a shutter count right here. See, shutter count. So it's designed supposed to for like after a certain amount of exposures, you should turn this camera in for shutter service. I never done it. I bought a used, so it works just fine. And I don't even know Fuji still have any department that would work on these cameras anymore. No idea. One thing that I wish Mamiya has, but it doesn't, is allow me to put an adapter here because I wear glasses. I mean, this one works fine because it's large enough. Speak of that. That's one thing I really like this over Leica. Relatively speaking, I also like Leicas. Is the center patch on the rangefinder patch is bigger and about as contrasty as Leica's, so it's easier for me to focus with my glasses on. And these one the same thing, but the patch on the Fuji it's a little bit smaller, so it's a little round, smaller. Just like reminds me of older rangefinder cameras, where this is a much modern feel, right? With a very contrasty finder, very defined rangefinder patch. You know, just it's a joy to use. That's the thing with the rangefinder cameras. For me, if I can get away with the limitations on these rangefinder cameras, which is the closest focus distance on this is a little bit beyond 3.5 feet, so about 3 feet here. Same thing with here. If I can get away with that, and also if I can get away with shooting at f4, because you know a lot of this one is actually f3.5, it's f4 on the medium format cameras. The lenses are generally slower, and so that's because the size, the format of the negative, it requires for the same field of view, it requires the for the same field of view, it requires the longer focal length to get you the same. Like for example, on this one, it's a 65mm lens, but on a 6x7, you can get a field of view equivalent to like say 35mm, whereas the 80mm here is about 40mm on the full frame, or 35mm on the what should I say, on a 35mm kind of base. You know, like if I were to shoot the same image, that's what I mean. And this one is a 90mm, which is roughly around, I would say about 45mm, kind of. And this is a 6x9, and this is 6x7, right? If I can get away with that slower lens and the minimum focus distance is about right around 3 feet. I would, 9 out of 10 times I would have picked a rangefinder cameras for my purpose. Let's see what else there is to it about these. They're relatively lightweight. Although I can certainly argue that Rolleiflex are pretty lightweight as well, which is a joy to use. It's a 6x6 twin lens reflex camera. But these cameras allow me to shoot at a light eye level, whereas the Rolleiflex is difficult to shoot at eye level, right? Because it's a waist level finder, most of them. If you want to put a prism on there, on the later model that allow you to put a prism on, you're still kind of shooting a little bit below eye level. So sometimes, when you get used to shooting, digital camera through, through an EVF, IEVF, and or DSLRs, it's where you kind of are looking through to the back and pointing at your camera. Then I think these are just hard to beat. It's really good for photojournalism and editorial kind of work. When I shoot with people, right? So when I shoot models that I like that kind of look, a little bit more editorial, involved with a little bit of movement or a scene, right? So these are great. These are great. The f4, because the focal length, right? I told you about the field of view. It's still gonna give you a little bit shallow depth of field. In fact, the fastest 35 medium format lens I have is probably like the f2.5 105 millimeter for the Pentax 6.7 system. I know the Hasselblad did make a f2 110 millimeter. It's pretty shallow, but the what I'm trying to think, I'm trying to say here, but that's kind of because I think in some ways that 2.5 on a 6x7 format, it's about similar to a f2 on a 6x6 format, right? Again, bigger the format, right? Your depth of field gets shallow for the same field of view. With a slower lens. So, for the type of look I want, generally I shoot like 5.6 to f11, somewhere there. I hardly ever use f4, to be honest with you. Again, certainly depth of field can improve as you further shooting the model away or subject away, like the distance between your camera and the subject is further out, then you gain more depth of field that way. That will allow you to shoot comfortably shooting at f4. But generally, since I shoot people, my shooting distance generally between 4 feet and I would say 10 feet, 4 to 10 feet, right? So, I would have depth of field concern when it's too shallow, right? I want my image to look a little bit more, like I said, normal, editorial, right? So less of portrait. A lot of portrait photographers say, well, yeah, I'm just going to shoot it with the lens wide open and stuff. Why would you buy a fast lens if you don't shoot it wide open? I heard that a lot. But, the thing is, it really depends on application, what you're going to use it for and the look you want. So, anyways, enough of rant about that. I really like this camera. Certainly highly recommend if somebody wants to try it out. The Rangefinder, these are great, but certainly, if you just for the sake of trying it out, if you find yourself, a Fujica GW690, it's actually pretty good camera. There is another version called the GL680 or 690. That one you can change lenses, but it's a much older camera, which is fine if you find one that's working, right? But these are like I shoot a lot of I shoot a lot of what was I gonna say? I shoot a lot of 50 mil lens, sometimes 35 mil. Hardly ever super wide or super long. So these serve me well. So especially on this camera, I probably want to pick up at the 150 mil just so I have a complete kit. That's probably most I will ever use is between the 80 the 65 and 150. There is a 43 mil lens on this camera. That's equivalent to like a Hasselblad, the what they call it, SWC. So super wide camera, 43 mil with a rangefinder. It's kind of nice. My friend has one. It's nice, but I do have the GWC, so that is what I use if I want something like traveling, something really wide. That does it. That does the trick. So, but yeah, so there's a lot of options on the Mamiya, but it is very expensive, unfortunately, and Fuji definitely a lot more reasonably priced. You just have to find one. The newer one is more rounder shape, but I like the boxy style, so this is a good one. Cold shoe though, so you will have to. Yeah, where did it go? You had to get yourself a cord to plug into a PC cord to sync your flash, whereas this is the hot shoe. Both side features. One thing I was gonna say, last thing, is shutter release right here on the Mamiya. It's not here, but it's actually here. That's your shutter release. The other thing is the Mamiya has a built-in meter, the Fuji doesn't. So if you want to pack a minimal and want to have a built-in meter, the Mamiya has a spot meter. The spot size is about the size of the center rangefinder patch. Something to think. It can be a good thing. You can set your ISO. You know what your speed is, and shoot away. Where this, you need a handheld meter or apply the Sunny 16 rule. So that's about it. That's my quick review. Hopefully you enjoy it. And this is a beautiful morning here. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you.